I would like to call to order a public hearing of the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Library District. This is Tuesday, July 16, 2013. Roll call, please. Kara?
Okay. McGuire Popick? Here. Sullivan?
Here.
Jakubowski? Here. Beekman?
Here.
Schuster? Here. And Blodgett? Here.
Okay. Thank you. We have a quorum. And our only item of business during this public hearing is to, release for public comment an ordinance related to our budget and appropriation for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2013 and ending June 30, 2014. So for the record, I'll read this brief hearing statement. This is a public hearing on an ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriation for library purposes for the fiscal year beginning 1 July 2013 and ending 30 June 2014. In accordance with Illinois statutes, the Library District published a legal notice of public hearing on Saturday, June 22. This notice was published in the Kane County Chronicle. The ordinance in tentative form was available for public inspection for at least 30 days prior to this hearing at the reference desk and the business office of the Batavia Public Library during regular library hours. If there is any person who desires to present testimony to the taxing district represented by this Board of Library Trustees, please step forward at this time. Okay, seeing no members of the public wishing to present testimony, I can ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay, moved by Deitchman.
Second.
Second by Schuster. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our public hearing is adjourned at 7:05. Okay, now I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District for July 16. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carol, roll call, please.
McGuire Popick? Here. Sullivan?
Here.
Jakubowski? Here. Deitchman?
Here.
Popick? Blodgett. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Blodgett. Okay. Schuster here.
Okay. We do have a quorum with one absent this evening. And item 4 is comments from the audience. Seeing none. Item 5 is the consent agenda, which today consists of minutes from May 21, expenditures from June 2013, and an action item being the ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriation for library purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2013 and ending June 30, 2014. Are there any trustees who would like to remove any of these items for a separate vote? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Moved by Schuster.
Second.
Second by Jakubowski. Roll call, please.
McGuire Popick?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Jakubowski?
Aye.
Deitchman?
Aye.
Blodgett?
Aye.
Schuster? Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda is approved. And item 6 is approving the regular agenda. Any additions or modifications to the agenda? Okay. Anyone like to make a motion on that?
I so move.
Okay, moved by Francine,
Second?
second by Jakubowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our agenda is approved. And now item 7, financial reports from June 2013, which, as you'll see, consists of basically items from the fiscal year that just ended. So Joy, do you want to highlight anything for us?
Even though you have those in there for the end of June, be advised that that's not the final for our year end because there'll be some accruals that we're still dealing with. But that's probably 95% of everything's in there at that point because I updated it through when I did that report late last week. We had the preliminary field work for the audit on Monday, and they'll be coming in the first week of September to do the bulk of their field work and then present the report for fiscal year end 6/30/13 in October. And we have already started to receive our payments for our taxes for this current fiscal year. Everything's been timely. And then I will report to you guys in after the first quarter a budget and projections for the 2013-14 year. But right now the bulk of my energies is going to finishing off the 12-13 year.
Okay. Well, it looks like we're coming in on budget, so that's good news. Any questions for Joy? Okay, thank you. All right, item 8. A couple items in my report this evening. I'd like to thank the the retreat, which is set for, is it July 20?
July 23rd.
July 23rd, right, okay. Just a reminder on that, that will be, yes, okay, so 1 week from today, right, a week after our regular board meeting. So hopefully the new trustees will get a lot of education out of that, and the veteran trustees will be re-educated as well, I hope, and we can all use that. Also in my report, I'd like to thank those trustees and staff as well, and even family members of both who volunteered to participate in that boardwalk renovation project. We're set for July 27th, coming up, I guess that's a week from Saturday. So I will see everyone there with ready to donate our labor to the Parks Foundation, I guess is the sponsoring agency of that. And last item here is I'll need to appoint 2 trustees. Kara Schuster is not allowed to be one of them, who will perform an audit of the secretary's records. This is essentially making sure that we've kept minutes and other files that need to be kept by this organization to comply with state law. And it's a matter with George's assistance that probably takes less than an hour, maybe not even
20 minutes.
I did last year, yeah, it's very good.
So, would any trustee be willing to volunteer for such a task? Okay, Francine, thank you.
I would do it except because I was secretary. Can I do it?
Yeah.
You are allowed because you're not secretary now.
Okay, then I would.
Okay.
Is that the current secretary cannot.
Okay.
That's the way the law reads.
That's the
All
way
right.
it goes.
Fair enough. Okay, so Francine and Maureen, thank you very much, and we'll get George will be in touch, and we can schedule a time that's convenient for you guys to work on that. Okay, great. Item 9. Any good news or comments from the board from the past month? Okay.
I just wanted, I will not be able to attend that boardwalk renovation project, even though I had already RSVP'd.
Okay.
A family situation, medical situation has arisen, and I'll have to leave, and I'll be on that.
Okay. All right, thanks for letting us know.
I don't know if that was the appropriate place to do it, but I...
Fair enough. Okay.
I got a note from Ginny Babcock.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds like they're getting settled in, so I'm glad to hear that. And it's it's been a good move for them to be with their family and everything like that. But I'll send her a note and say that we miss her.
Oh,
We-
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, item 10, correspondence and communication. We have two rather lengthy documents here. George, do you want to describe what these are about?
Sure, these are both from building technology consultants. The first document, which does not have the color picture on the cover, or that's dated June 24th, is the report on the additional window and water testing approved by the board. It was such a big file we had to use FTP to download it because he couldn't email it because of all the pictures. But, the pictures sort of speak for themselves. The facilities committee will be taking up this review. This ties into our masonry project for the building. And the second document, the masonry project was split into two pieces. One was the building itself, and the second was site work components. And so the investigation phase for the building is what is tied into the water testing. The site work component...
If you don't mind, so the water testing still needs review by the facilities committee?
No, they to a great extent, this is for informational purposes.
Okay, to report on what they did when they performed this test?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
And the news was not as bad as it could have been, but not as good as we would have liked, I guess is the best way,
Okay.
the best way to put it. Perhaps Andrew, as an engineer, would have other observations to make on them.
Worst case, best case, yeah.
Yeah. So the next phase for this, for the facilities committee to look at is now that I'm expecting to get an up-to-date proposal from them on the next steps, which would be design work, beginning with schematic design for what the solutions might be for the building itself. And the second piece, that's what we've got here, is for the site work components, which is everything outside the building, walls, caps for the walls, steel railings and pipes, sidewalks, columns, the driveway, drive-up, book deposit area. They covered it in the stairs, outdoor stairs. At the board's request, as part of the schematic design phase, BTC was requested to provide good, better, and best repair options, and then they also recommended a repair option. Sometimes it was one of those three, good, better, best. Sometimes it was a blend of one or more. And so I want to make sure that the entire board received a copy of this, which is why it's in the board packet, because we've been setting aside money for a number of years for this kind of a project, and we do have the funds available for the recommendations they're making, but the facilities committee needs to review this and make some recommendations to the board for next month. So in my opinion, this is one of the best reports I've seen from a contractor. I've been a librarian and worked on a lot of building projects for a long time, and their analysis of the good, better, best options was, I thought, very thoughtful. I'm just very impressed with the work that they did. So I think it would make the facilities committee job in some respects easier than it might have been, since we actually have some good meat to chew on.
Yeah, I thought it was really well written. understandable for somebody who's not used to reading this type of technical jargon and whatnot, so.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased. We'll be seeing similar reports coming from the architects. We retained Studio GC relating to the audiovisual improvements in the meeting rooms and the public restroom counters and such. Those will be coming up before too long. And so this is like the year of the facilities, I guess. No, this is the building grounds here.
Is this unusual that this much work would need to get done on a fairly new building?
Well, the building is opened 11 years ago, 11 and a half years ago. So the construction was taking place prior to that. Their building's newer than ours that have had more severe issues they've had to deal with. Their building's older than ours that have had, fewer issues. I guess, again, I don't know the right phraseology for this, but I think some things have surprised us in terms of maybe there's more settling of the sidewalks and perhaps the column covers, which were wood, were not the right solution initially. There's various ways to look at this. I don't know whether it's, based on my knowledge of the metro area, I'd say we're probably right in the middle of the pack. Glen Ellen and Itasca had to completely replace the skins of their buildings, and those buildings were not that old. They spent, 7 figures, to do work like that. So, Glen Ellen in particular had serious water penetration issues and mold issues that resulted. Even our water testing didn't, we don't have the same level of issue that they have. I think a building that was maybe the same age or newer. So, I don't know if that answers your question. We have a big piece of property, and we have a lot going on our property, and that may be part of it. I think there are certainly some issues during construction that are called out in here. Poorly installed flashing, no flashing in some cases, which is not good. So there's a variety of different issues that led to this. That's sort of water under the bridge at this point. We're confronted with what are we doing
Well,
now?
I'm glad we're keeping up.
Yeah.
Right, and it's good that the boards that preceded us saw fit to set aside money to take on projects like this, and that was definitely a positive thing that Randy and the other trustees were very cognizant of. So that's great. Okay.
I got two other quick ones that I'll pass out. I gave you this information, Doug, but I want to make sure the other trustees were aware of. The cafe owner is interested in moving on, I think is the way he put it. And so I've got a packet here that includes correspondence from me to Doug, and then a letter from the cafe owner, and then other background information. And the services committee will be looking at this in August, but I want to make sure that you were apprised of what the situation was there. And then also,
maybe let me make one other comment there. For the trustees who aren't on the services committee, please, if you have thoughts on this, pass them along to George or myself, and we can, take that into account at the next meeting, because this is relatively, big deal, and we want to get this right. So don't be shy about offering your opinion.
and then this piece, that was a copy for each of the trustees, relates to a per capita grant requirement, which at one time, as I described in my report, we had intended our community survey to accomplish. Because of the unanticipated delays in doing the community survey, I don't believe the survey will be done by the time we need to apply for the 2013-2014 per capita grant. And so the requirement relates to an environmental scan of the community, and we actually have time set aside at the retreat next week for an open forum, and the topic of which sort of relates to this anyway. So what I'm suggesting in my report is that time be used to essentially either accomplish or begin to accomplish with the help of the trustees an environmental scan, which is required for the per capita grant. And so I've got some background information in here to look at between now and then. So that's what I did.
Okay. All right, thank you. Directors and librarians reports. George, do you want to highlight anything from your report?
Well, our fiscal year ended June 30th, and as the trend has been showing, our two primary statistical counts were down slightly over the previous year. The total circulation dropped to 767,329, which is the third highest in the library's history, but it's lower than the past 2 years by a small margin. But we're still very busy, and the number of visits actually has declined slightly as well, although we have increased over the past 2 years. We're just down since last year. So relatively flat, but again, as I noted, I think last month, the numbers are way, way higher than they were when we moved to the building. And the workload shows that. Last year, for the first time, Carrie provided a peek at technical services, and we've expanded upon that for this year, the kind of repair work we're doing in that department, and so we've got some numbers. We didn't count some of these numbers last year, then we started to count this year, but you can see there's a lot of work being done in technical services that saves the library out-of-pocket expense in terms of perhaps not need to replace certain items as quickly or to maintain the useful life of certain items. So Carrie's here if you have any questions for her on that kind of work, which as you can see is rather varied. And I think adult books repaired and children's books repaired doesn't even begin to cover all the different possibilities for what's going on with these items. And then Stacy, are you planning on talking about the symposium again? Oh, okay. I described in here, in my written report, a reminder that the first ever Batavia Windmill Symposium, which with the theme Batavia's Place in Windmill History, will take place here at the library on Saturday, September 14th. And we have 3 very interesting presentations, plus the American Society of Mechanical Engineers will be presenting a plaque to recognize Batavia's windmill collection as a historical landmark in mechanical engineering. So Saturday, September 14th, it'll start off with the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and it will move into the first keynote speaker will be T. Lindsay Baker, who is perhaps the greatest living authority on American windmills, if I may say that. And he's appearing here as part of our New Lyceum Lecture Series, because the Foundation has provided some nice financial support in recent years for that. And so we're tying that series into this as well. So, anything else you want to add? Okay. So we encourage you to attend. It should be a fun day.
May I just make a comment?
Please do. Yeah.
In addition to the Batavia Windmill Symposium, the DuPage Historical Museum is also featuring Dr. T. Lindsay Baker on Friday evening, and he will do a talk on windmill weights. For those people who don't know what a windmill weight is, just briefly, you can't see it from here, a windmill either has a tail or it has a weight, which acts as a counterbalance to keep the wheel the wind. So the weights often end up in private collectors who are into folk art, as well as windmill collections. And anyway, so he is also speaking at another engagement, and then that helps the library split the cost for his travel and so forth and so on. So that was a unique opportunity. But it's also an opportunity for people to also go to the museum and see a wonderful exhibit of Illinois folk art. And I think the event will be closing after that weekend. So that's, if you are interested at all, that would be a good night to go to the DuPage County Historical Museum. I think it's a $20 charge, but there's wine and food, so, which is a nice bonus. So that's my little plug for the DuPage County Historical Museum. And more windmills.
Very good. The last thing I've got is I want to unveil this framed piece here. You may recall that Dan and Pat Hofer came to a meeting a while back and presented a facsimile of this print. This print is a facsimile from an 1872 Atlas of Kane County. Then it shows the Van Nortwick estate, which is where we're sitting right now. And the library happens to own a copy of that atlas now, although it's in such poor condition, it currently is not available for public use. Literally all the pages are loose, the paper is not very good. But in that, there's a 1872 map of Batavia. So we had the map scaled to fit with the print to show Batavia in 1872 and the site that the library is on. And this, of course, is a courtesy of the Hoefler and Paddock families of Batavia. And so this arrived, I picked it up when I was in Chicago for ALA and brought it back, and so I wanted to make sure that we unveiled it for the board and the community to see. Nice. It will hang in this room. As you may know, we have this curtain up so that everybody's not watching the mirror during the meeting, but this mirror came from that house, the Van Nortwick house. So we're going to hang this frame piece next to the mirror with a little extra descriptive plaque to tie the whole thing together. So as part of our library interest in Batavia's history, we have another piece there.
Okay, nice.
So now, I think Joanne and Stacy.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, sure. So you mentioned the ALA. What was your biggest takeaway from that?
Well,
Or one or two?
there were actually, it was one of the better conferences I've been to. It was, I unfortunately got caught in traffic on Friday when the celebration for the Blackhawks was there. It was gridlock from McCormick Place to downtown was rather unbelievable about the time the parade was going on. But beyond that, there were 20,000 attendees, which was a very large conference. McCormick Place was hopping. We were able to send quite a number of our employees for a day or more because it was so close. I really enjoyed some of the, I made a point to visit certain vendors relating to projects we're talking about here, book drops and digitization things and that sort of thing, but the programs are very good. I did pass up on Jada De Laurentiis, who was there, but couldn't quite, I'm sorry, Kathy. But I was told by a friend that she spoke for 10 minutes and answered questions for 50, so I guess she gave a very nice presentation. But she writes children's books now, but in addition to her cooking. But I did hear Oliver Stone talk about his most recent project, and that was one of the more fascinating talks I've heard in a long time, and about his new book and video series that accompanied that. But in terms of meetings, some very good meetings that relating to foundation topics, marketing topics, the United for Libraries, which is the group that deals with friends, foundations, trustees, and advocates. I found myself, for whatever reason, I ended up at 2 or 3 different of their programs, and they were all very good. So it was a busy time and a fun time. Unless you were stuck on the bus trying to get from McCormick Place to downtown on Friday. That was not good, but otherwise it was a great conference.
There was a good write-up in the Tribune
Yeah, that's what I
about
Oh, I
yeah.
missed that. Oh, I missed that.
and
Okay.
how, we think of librarians a little differently today. I
Yeah.
kept talking about girls with polka dot dresses.
There were some of those, but actually the exhibits were really fascinating because nowadays there's like a whole section that is just video gaming. There's a whole section that is just graphic novels and comic books and manga and anime for the as well. A lot of authors gave presentations this year. Had an author stage set up in the exhibits area, so a lot of just every nonfiction and fiction and children's, and it was just wonderful, something for everybody. But it was as busy as the exhibits were as busy as I've ever seen them. Just a lot of people.
Well, that's good news.
It is. Yeah. The industry seems to be healthy. Yeah.
I have one other question. In the paper recently, there's been some talk about how local libraries are being drafted to help, I'm paraphrasing this, get the word out about the Affordable Health Care Act. And I'm wondering if Batavia will be involved in that, and I'm not sure what the involvement would be. My understanding is that they're not asking libraries to push certain insurance plans or anything like that, but just be there as a means of answering questions. And I was wondering what you knew about that and if we were going to be involved
Actually,
in that.
I am not aware of that. Or are you aware? Can you speak to this, Stacey?
Yes, at ALA, I believe there was an announcement stating that public libraries were going to be used as a place for people to find that information. My sense was that at the baseline level, people would be referred to public libraries, particularly if they did not have internet access or the knowledge to access the websites needed to find out the information, and that librarians could help them with that, which we certainly do on an ongoing basis for people applying for jobs and so forth for that internet use. So at the very baseline level, we're prepared for that because we're doing that every day. Beyond that, I haven't heard any additional information about information being distributed to libraries. It sounds like that might be happening, but I have not followed up on any of those details.
Yeah, the papers were pretty vague about it, so that's why I was wondering if you heard anything more about it. Thank you.
It occurs to me, I've seen that during tax time we have like 1040 forms and stuff like that available here.
We have a
Maybe
wide
something
range.
along the same lines where they give us a holder, a place to stuff brochures or something.
Well, they might.
I don't know what kind of materials would even. I'm sure someone's creating some kind of material for that program.
I think there were going to be applications, and I think they're still working on it because the initial attempt at creating one was so lengthy. People were saying it was 12 pages long, and so they were trying to condense this because the average person, you might fall asleep before you finish a 12-page application.
Yeah, if there's printed materials, we have ways to distribute that, and if it's help accessing online things, as Stacy said, that's something they do probably daily on different topics.
Okay.
All right.
So, go ahead.
We're in week 6 of Summer Reading Club. I'll send around some pictures from some of the events since our last meeting. We have over 2,100 children registered, and this year I wanted to mention something that is new this year is that there's a few teachers from Hooverwood School who are going twice a week to Batavia Apartments to read with some of the students there, and Allison goes once a week to kind of facilitate summer reading club for some of the students there and the children there. And she has 34 children registered already at Batavia Apartments, and it's really, she said it's really been well received so far. So she only is just going once a week for an hour, but they look forward to her coming, and she even has an opportunity to read with some of the children. So we're going to see how that goes and see if that's something that we would want to continue for in the future. Batavia Apartments is set up in a way because they do have a community relations person there. They do their own day camp and things like that. That it's a little, it's an easy location that we can do that, and they have a room that can be done in as well. I do want to make mention of our Summer Reading Club finale, which is Thursday, August 1st, and it's hard to believe that I'm already talking about August, but that is coming up very quickly. 7 p.m., and this year we are once again at Rotolo Middle School. We are being, and our finale is Matt Wilhelm, who's a BMX bike champion and ex-sports person, and we had him a number of years ago for our finale, and I think he was our highest attended finale of all times, and he is just amazing, and even the adults were astounded. So I would invite the board and all of our Summer Reading Club families that if you are free that night, join us at Rotolo Middle School at 7 p.m. because it's an amazing show, and he really has a great message for children too, and in addition to amazing stunts that he can do on this bike. And August 3rd is the last day of Summer Reading Club, so time is flying. And I do want to mention ALA. Allison and I both attended the Sunday of the weekend of ALA, and we had some missions on things that we were looking for, and we saw a lot of great things. One of the big things we were looking for was databases for children. That's something the adults have certainly offered a lot of really great databases. We've been very limited. We really haven't had it in our budget before to do too many databases. We really right now are offering Tumble Books and Muzzy. But we really wanted to get something in addition for students who are coming in and looking for more information, and probably a little bit lower level than what's being offered. We do have Student Resource Center Gold, which is also a great resource, but something else that is a little bit more approachable by children. And Allison and I really spent a lot of time looking at those, and we'll have some good recommendations to talk about for us for the future. We also saw some great other products that we're going to bring back and share with managers and management team. We saw we had a sneak peek at Summer Reading Club 2014. We're only in the midst of 2013, and we're already sneak peeking into 2014, and we're very excited about that. And we had an opportunity on that Sunday evening to go to the Newberry Caldecott Awards Banquet. And for children's librarians, that's like the place to go during ALA. That is like the big awards.
Oscars.
Yes, that is the Oscars of children's literature. And there were hundreds of librarians there. And we heard John Clausen speak. He was the Caldecott winner this year for his book, I Want My Hat Back. This Is Not My Hat. It's about a little fish who steals a hat from a big fish. Catherine Applegate won for The One and Only Ivan, about a gorilla, and it was very well received. Did I hear an awe back there? And we also got to hear an author who is loved by children's authors, children's librarians around. Catherine Patterson won the Laura Ingalls Wilder Award for her years of contribution to children's literature. And so she gave a very beautiful speech. And her first book was published in 1973. So she's been an author for a long time. And still was up there and had a great speech. So we had a wonderful time. We got a lot of great information. It was a very long day, but it was not Friday when the traffic jams were, so we were good to go. And that's it. Any questions? Thank you. Give a quick
update on the ALA conference for adult services. Christine Edison, Lauren Affair, and I each spent one day at the conference. It was a very packed day. The exhibits alone could take hours, so a person really needed to be strategic, which we all were. We each had different areas that we were looking at and different types of vendors. I attended some fascinating presentations about statistics and staff development and programming. So a lot of ideas that are percolating in our brains now that will be coming forth in the days ahead. One other thing I wanted to mention is that the Art in Your Eye program series is getting started later this month. Our first program is Monday, July 29th at 7 o'clock. Wet on Wet Landscape Watercolor. And Fatima, and I'm going to say her last name wrong, Figueiredo.
I know who she is.
Something like that. She does the most exquisite watercolors, is going to be here to do a demo. So that's in just a couple weeks on the 29th of July, 7 o'clock. And then a couple more programs coming up. The dates are mentioned in the program there, as well as on the library website. In August and September, we have 2 more art programs coming up, leading up to the festival itself, which takes place this year in September, on September 21st, 22nd. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Questions for Stacy? All right. Item 12 are committee reports, but we did not have committee meetings in July, so we'll move on to item 13, future agenda items. There's a memo in your packet about issues that are coming up to this board and the committees. Any questions for George or staff on those? Okay. Item 14 is I guess that you'd call this an agreement that is being proposed to this organization by the school district related to the preservation of Batavia school history. There was a memo and the actual agreement here in your packet. George, do you want to make any comments about this before we open it up?
Well, this relates to an agreement from 2 years ago between the library and the Batavia Historical Society that led to the creation of the bataviahistory.org website and the beginning of putting more and more things online under the aegis of the library. This is a continuation of that. Adult Services, through Stacy, has applied for a digitization preservation grant as a way to expand the making more and more local documents available. And in looking at some of the things that would make the most sense to make more widely available, quite a few of those items were related to the school district, such things as the school newspaper, yearbooks, and those sorts of things. But because of copyright issues, we did not want to do that without the school district permission. So this agreement is basically the Board of Education saying that yes, the library can do this with our permission, and we're quite excited about this. The outgoing, I guess he's the former superintendent now, Jack Barsher, and I have been discussing this for some time, and while I was heading off to ALA, he put it on the Board of Education agenda. I think he wanted to accomplish this before he was out of office. So when I came back from ALA, I asked him a question about it. He says, my board approved that last week. I said, oh, that's good to know. We'd already had our attorney look at it, and they had their attorney look at it, and surprisingly, neither attorney had much to say about it other than it looked good. So here it is for this board's approval.
So this appears to be essentially us doing the legwork of digitizing school records sort of on their behalf for benefit of the community. That's
Exactly, yeah.
this is-
It's
okay.
basically things like, we want to start off with yearbooks, of which we have a complete collection of high school yearbooks here. We do not have very many junior high school or middle school yearbooks, but we have all the high school yearbooks. And we have a very deep collection of The Spectator, the school newspaper. So those are the things we are looking at first, the yearbooks being first. And over time, since we're going to have an agreement, since we're proposing an agreement anyway, over time we thought we'd include things like photographs and annual reports and other things. The school district has already made available to us class pictures from 1911 through, well, I think it's later than that even. And it's an enormous number of class pictures that they had, starting in 1911, when the year the school districts merged. And so we've actually been scanning all of those, and almost all of them have the students' names on them, which is nice. And the ones that don't seem to have actual yearbooks, so we can make a good shot at figuring out who some of these people are. So the school district was very interested in working with us. Otherwise, they themselves had no particular interest in putting this stuff up on their website. But since we've been working with the Historical Society, we feel that's one of the strong things the library brings to the community now. So it is, in essence, yes, but we couldn't do it without their permission.
Okay. So are we uniquely capable of doing this kind of archiving? Is that sort of our role here?
You mean uniquely like in our community? Or a lot?
Yeah, I suppose so.
A lot of libraries actually are libraries and historical societies and public libraries, university libraries, historical societies and such are more and more getting involved in this. The state library has supported these kind of projects for several years actually, and our historical society, the reason we entered into an agreement with them, I think they actually may have come to us saying they wanted to scan all of their Batavia historic newsletters, which started in 1960, which are full of, and make them searchable. And that's the kind of information that we respond to questions all the time here, so it seemed like it was a nice collaborative effort. So in a sense, we have the website, and we had a webmaster who could make this work a little bit easier on our end. And the Historical Society and now the school district has resources to enrich this kind of a service. So I look at it more as the community is more uniquely focused on collaboration, rather than saying, no, we'd rather do it ourselves, or no, we don't think that's important. We actually are finding the local governmental bodies and organizations are really sort of excited about, making the community more aware of its history.
But I think what you're saying as far as, kind of what you're saying sounds like a mission statement as far as like how we are going to address like archival type situations. Kind of goes along the line when we were talking about the maps that are considered being purchased. That's kind of the same philosophy that we're going along with. To invite other city or community organizations to kind of help out with that. And to work together to ensure that gets in the right place.
It makes sense to have everything under one umbrella. In some cases, we'll link to other sites if that's possible. But if we can, and we've actually set up a Flickr account we started putting photographs that we own or have permission to use on a Flickr account for Batavia history that is linked from the Batavia history site. So that umbrella is, I think, really, that may be what's unique about Batavia, not that we're unique in terms of local history. Stacy has something to
This is also a growing trend that we're seeing with public libraries collaborating with other organizations in the community. I've attended, about a year before we launched Batavia History, I attended a Lacone program that featured the Des Plaines Public Library and another public library member who were beginning to launch programs along these lines. And since then, I've seen other presentations describing how libraries can collaborate a trend that last year when the library won the Reference Services Award, it was for the Batavia History Site, recognizing that collaboration in the community and the forward-thinking role of the library in moving forward in that kind of a partnership. One thing I think is unique here is that we have such strong collaboration with other units of government and other organizations. And from what I hear from other libraries, we are very fortunate in those connections the library has in the community.
Okay, yeah, that's a good answer. Okay.
I just wanted to, that is something that has been talked about over the years, is that a lot of times the city itself and the organizations in it lack a cohesive plan on how information is distributed and made available. And I think this website is like the tip of the iceberg in terms of providing that cohesion with a lot of these organizations, and certainly tying in the school information now is another huge element there that actually ties into the history as well. But I did have a question. In addition to digitizing documents and photos, usually there's a search engine behind this type of system, so that people can go in and put in keywords or whatever to be able to. So is that?
That's part of this.
That's part of this. Okay. And is it adequate with this additional information, or are there going to be any software upgrades or additional costs expected or anything?
Well, maybe I should have Stacy. Stacy's done a lot of the legwork.
If we were to get the grant, we would be able to digitize the bulk of the historic books. If we don't get the grant, it would be something that we would probably pick away at bit by bit using, I'm guessing, per capita grant funds, and it would be smaller segments. But the companies that we looked at when exploring the grant possibility, we chose the one that had the best references and looking at samples of their work. They do have searchability built into those websites so that it would be full text searchable, which was one of the key things that we were looking for, so that it can be useful to researchers who are looking for that historical information about the community.
Okay, because I know the Historical Society has purchased a software, but they've had a hard time getting it off the ground because of training issues and lack of staffing issues and that type of thing. So you don't want to make those kinds of mistakes either. You want to be able to have something that's, hopefully it's something that would tie in with whatever they're developing as well. I know that's
Well, we're actually
pie in
working
the
with
sky.
we're actually working with the Depot Museum
Good.
/ Historical Society, and we've had earlier meetings where we were discussing what made the most sense to preserve first. This project ultimately will include both microfilming and digitization. The microfilming to preserve materials, because the shelf life of microfilm is actually longer than the digital shelf life in some respects. And then the searchable digital. And one of the things on the list that is now in the possession of the Historical Society at the Depot Museum is the first 10 years of the Batavia Republican, from 1990 to 2000. And they're all bound, and after much work, the staff at the Depot Museum has entered into a relationship with, I guess, what are now the former owners of the Batavia Republican, since it was acquired by the Chronicle, to preserve that newspaper, which has never been microfilmed and has never been made available in that way. So after the yearbooks, you can see things like newspapers that have not yet been microfilmed. We really want to do the city directories, and there's a real cloud over the permissions for that. Unfortunately, we may end up being able to do the pre-1950 at some point because of ownership questions, but the post-1950, there's no way we can do those. I forget how many years we had to wait. I think it's
95.
yeah, it's some ridiculous because of who owns the rights to those. But so it's sort of it's a really neat project. It's a very exciting project, but it's definitely not turnkey project, in a sense, because who owns the rights, who owns the documents, who has copies of the documents that are willing to loan us, give us, that sort of thing, and then the funding is all part of this one.
So how much is the grant that you're applying for?
We applied for a grant for $10,000
Okay.
from the state agency, and
Okay.
we'll get an answer in August.
Okay. All right. So I guess by that logic, if we don't get that grant, we're still going to take on the work, essentially just eating that cost with our own staff time? No?
This agreement would give us the permission going forward if there were another grant opportunity, or if we were able to use per capita grant funding next year to do a smaller piece of this project, we would scale it down
Okay.
and pick away at it gradually over the years.
And the Historical Society may be willing to support certain aspects of this as well, because there's a real interest on the part of the Society and the Depot Museum to film and digitize certain documents, such as older newspapers and yearbooks and city directories and photographs. Yeah. The photographs is an interesting project unto itself, although there certainly is just a absolute ton of uncatalogued photographs, indexed to some extent, but uncatalogued photographs of the Depot Museum. So this kind of project will extend far beyond our careers, I think, at the library. But this is the seed. We're planting the seeds, I guess.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. I guess we can call for a motion. Anyone want to move that we approve this agreement?
I so move.
I second it.
Okay, second by Blodgett. All in favor? Aye. Okay, all opposed?
Thank you very much.
All right. That agreement with the District 101 is approved. And then item 15 is dental insurance. We are proposing here to change providers for the library personnel's dental insurance carrier, I guess. That looks like it saves the library money, and in a couple of cases improves the coverage for employees. So
That's correct.
it seems like a pretty good deal. Any comments or questions on this topic? Okay, do we have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Dietrich and second by Blodgett. Do we need a roll call on this?
Since it relates to money, I would say that.
Okay, so let's do a roll call on this, please.
Okay, McGuire, Popick,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Jakubowski.
Aye.
Deichmann,
Aye.
Blodgett,
Aye.
Schuster, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so the ordinance to approve Delta Dental of Illinois as our dental insurance carrier is approved. Okay, so item 16 is a closed session related to the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Jakubowski, second by Schuster, all in favor?
This one doesn't require.
Oh, okay, roll call
All right,
please.
McGuire, Popick,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Jakubowski.
Aye.
Deichmann,
Aye.
Blodgett, Schuster, aye.
Okay. We are recessed into closed session.